Welcome to Love Your Coaching. I'm Charlie, and today I'm going to talk about why it's important to have a really clear distinction between coaching and mentoring. Why is that so important? Because we still find that lots of people confuse coaching and mentoring. It's not a surprise, and there's no judgment. The reason is because those two words are used so interchangeably. We often see in management programs, in training and qualifications, and in professional support, often people are offered coaching and mentoring. And there's not enough language to distinguish those two. Coaching qualification we offer is technically called an ILM level 7 in coaching and mentoring. So it really needs explaining and distinguishing. What we're going to do is we're going to look at the similarities and the differences between coaching and mentoring, and then give it a little definition of what mentoring is, and then we'll talk about the parameters between coaching and mentoring. Why is this useful for you as coaches? Some of you coaches will be mentoring as well, but I think it means that you can really reassure people who are looking for coaching from you that this is coaching, that it is not going to drift into mentoring, it's not going to drift into advice, so that they're really clear and they understand. So, when we look at the similarities and differences, firstly, the differences. As coaches, I think we know these things. We know it's all about the coachee. They choose the topic. They discuss what they want to discuss. They come up with their own ideas, their own answers. They're not getting anything from us apart from the space to work it out. And often self-awareness becomes a big part of the coaching process. Mentoring contrasts, because mentoring, the agenda may well be from the mentor as well as a bit from the mentee. They may have topics that they want to talk to you about. That the mentor will definitely offer advice and definitely offer some feedback. So the idea that they have input in this conversation. So when you look at those two, clearly it looks like a very different thing. So why do we get confused? Why do many people get confused? I think it's this stuff in the middle. That both coaching and mentoring are dialogues. There are two people in a room, one talking predominantly and one listening. That there is respectful challenge, and that there is the opportunity for personal or professional growth. So it's not surprising that those two can be seen as one and the same thing. And often I think that people aren't as strict as perhaps we like to be. The keeping coaching and mentoring apart isn't important for some. I'll explain a little bit more about that later on. So I hope that's useful as a starting point. It's good to have a definition. I'll just touch on one briefly. The definition that we like to use is more of an explainer. So I might talk about it being a dialogue-based relationship and allude to the fact that the mentor's got something, more experience, that the mentor does provide information, but only where it's relevant, and that the mentor and mentee decide between them how direct this guidance is going to be, and that the mentor can be very direct or can be much more collaborative. So already we start to give a sense that the mentor doesn't have to just work in one way. But hopefully this definition, if you compare it from the previous video where I talked about a definition of coaching, it gives you a sense that it's a different thing and that people we're explaining this to will see that. So I hope that's useful. The thing is, and the question is, can we mix coaching and mentoring? And I think it's a great question. And I never, ever want to give oh, well, it depends type of answer. I've got quite a strong belief about this. I think there's a yes and a no. The no is this. If you've contracted with a coachee, if you have said all those things we said in the previous video, that you have the answers, you resource yourself, that the coach isn't the problem solver, all that jazz, then we can't start shifting to mentoring. We've agreed to be their coach. We haven't agreed to be their coach mentor. So contracting and saying we are in coaching mode, as soon as we slip into mentoring, we are undermining our coachee's agency. And I really want to emphasize that, and we don't want to do that. Where you can go between coaching and mentoring, I think, is with uncontracted coachees. When people you're having one-to-ones with, when they are not necessarily sitting in the coachee chair, when there isn't a great expectation that they are working as a coachee and you're working as a coach. So examples for that, it might be a one-to-one with a colleague. It might be if you're leading a team and you have your regular catch-up type of conversations. It might be someone has come to you to ask for a hand or to ask for some thoughts. In those circumstances, I think there's nothing wrong with combining coaching and mentoring at all. And for coaches who really hate the idea of never slipping a bit of mentoring in, then you have to contract differently. You have to say, well, I don't follow a non-directive approach. I follow more like a blended approach, and I coach a bit and mentor a bit. And if your colleague agrees with you, then you do that. We prefer to be strict. I think we prefer because we think that people get such a long way when they realize that they have the answers. If people want a mentor, they can find a mentor, or they can invite for some mentoring. But if they want a coach, I think it's good to coach them. This is probably the number one thing we have in the most discussions about, the number one thing that I feel like I'm sticking my neck out a bit, and I do get a bit of grief for it, but I don't mind. I think that we have to make a stand for something that we think is important, and I do see this great benefit for both coaches and coachees offering a non-directive approach and saying, I'm not going to slip into mentoring. Clearly, there's always the moment, and there's always an emergency or something like that when we have to, when there is no choice, professionally speaking. But generally, this is where we stand. So as we come to the end of this little video, explaining and defining and distinguishing coaching and mentoring, I hope that you can take away something that's of use. My encouragement, as with the last video about definitions, is make it your own. Decide how you're going to explain it. Decide exactly what you want to say and what you want to avoid saying. I think those things are really important. And then I think that can give you a bit of confidence. I think that can help. Do let me know how you get on. If you'd like any further resources, definitions, there's going to be documents to download here. If you want to share your ideas, please drop a note in the comments. We'd love to hear from you. Hope this helps. Have a good day. Take care. Happy coaching.